What a great play, a ridiculous pass, as Jax would say, against Virginia Tech, Cam Ward, courtesy of ESPN. Ted Robinson joins us now, formerly of the Pac-12 Network, now of CW. He'll be calling the Colorado State-Oregon State game Saturday at 3:30 local time. And you can always follow him on Twitter at Ted J. Robinson. He joins us now on the Right to It guest line. How you doing, Ted? What's going on, man? How are you today?
I'm doing great, guys. How about the end of that Miami-Virginia Tech game? That was interesting.
Yeah. Catch or no catch?
Well, I mean, I'm just laughing. I'm saying, the guys called it on the field for better or for worse, and replay with absolutely no, incontrovertible evidence overturns the call, which does not do much for the credibility of Miami's position right now.
Yeah, big time. And then speaking of Miami and you being in the Bay Area as long as you have, Cal and Stanford both hosting their first ever ACC games, but ESPN Game Day finally making it to Cal with Miami in town. That's got to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I live very close to Stanford, so I'm about 50 miles from Berkeley, but there are Cal people around, as you would expect, and they're fired up. The only challenge, of course, is the old dilemma that you both Arizona schools have lived this forever, is that being out here, so game day means that people have to get there at 6 in the morning.
Yes,
the game's not till 7:30 at night. And that's what the Cal fans that I know in my life have all said that to me this week, is that's the hard part of it. And unfortunately, it's where we are. And bluntly, it's one of the things I think, guys, that even I, as much as I can't stand this, I have to admit that the schools in the West have to adapt to this, because it's what TV wants. The window that has value for the schools out here is the late night, the West Coast primetime window, late night on the East Coast.
All right.
And that's what Cal and Miami are going to face that tomorrow on Saturday night.
Yes, they will get that late window. So that brings me to my next question, because you were a Pac-12 guy. So now that the resurrection of the Pac-12 is in progress, is your opinion then that the reason they will be able to resurrect the Pac-12 with enough money is because those networks want still that late night window, and the Pac-12 with the teams that they are now assembling will still be able to fill that?
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, I don't like this because I've lived this. I know how difficult it is on the fans, and the stadium. Fans in the stadium are the last people anybody cares about in this whole recent turn of college athletics into complete business. So I recognize and empathize with fans, because it's horrible for them. But the market is speaking, and the television market is telling the schools out here, this is where your value is. And the previous iteration of the conference maybe resisted that a little bit. They paid a price for it. I think the new conference, the new iteration of it, is going to fully embrace it.
Ted Robinson here on Fox Sports Sign 10 Phoenix. All right, 3 ACC teams remain undefeated through the first 5 weeks. Miami, Duke, very surprising, and Pitt. Let's start with Miami, and of course we talked about the end of that game. But are they the real deal right now? I mean, they were flying under the radar, and now they're not. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on them right now, what you're seeing.
Yeah, that's good. I did try to watch a little bit of that Virginia Tech game, and look, they spent, they got probably as good a quarterback and running back as money could buy.
Yeah.
And they came out here to get him, get Cam Ward and Damian Martinez from Oregon State. They clearly have boosters that are willing to buy a team. And, Cristobal, we all know from the Pac, fabulous recruiter, excellent recruiter. The question was always about game coaching and game management. That might still be there a little bit. The good news for Miami of Florida is that the ACC is still not a great league. It's just not a great football league. And it's not at the level of the Big Ten or SEC. So I'm not even sure what the rest of their season schedule is. But if they can survive this cross-country trip this weekend, yeah, they're going to be in good shape. Look, Florida, everybody thought Florida State would be a team. They're 1-4 barely. Clemson's rebounded. That's the one team you might watch. And again, I'm not familiar, guys. I don't know if Miami plays Clemson this year. But I know Clemson, after getting bounced by Georgia pretty handily, they've come back impressively. Their offense looks a lot better.
I'm with you on that. Yeah, Kublik, the QB, is playing much better now for the Clemson Tigers. I want to know what you think so far, 4 or 5 games into the season. Is it still a situation in college football, at least in your eyes, Ted, that it is the same as it always has been as far as what you see on the field? Or do you see it changing in some way?
Well, okay, let me ask you, you're talking about how the game is played?
Yes.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing in pro football is going to start leaking. That it always does. It's going to leak back into college football. What are you seeing in the NFL this year? You're seeing way more running, right? After a decade plus of running backs being devalued and everybody throwing the ball all over the place. Now defenses have adjusted. Everybody's playing two safeties deep. And now you watch passing. It's constant 5 yards, 7 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards. I think that's going to bleed down into even the upper level. I say down, even though the upper level of college football is now the NFL G League. I think the way the game's being played, that's what will happen. I think the bigger question to me, guys, which is the stuff none of us who really enjoys talking about, but is the UNLV quarterback quitting on his team, just quitting.
Yeah.
And, I'm surprised it took this long to happen. It's going to continue to happen because the schools, by the law, and I emphasize that with massive air quotes, can't get involved in the NIL payments. And so the kid claims that he was promised money. The school says, hey, not our problem. You got to talk to the collective. Well, do you have a contract with the collective? Are you going to sue the collective? Because the collective probably can out-lawyer you all day long.
Yeah.
My point is, this is just another little branch of the incredible chaos that college football has been thrown into. And the downside to me is this. So this kid comes from, a lower level football school, Holy Cross in Worcester, Mass. He comes out to UNLV. They start well. They've got a chance to have their best football season in a long time, right? They have a chance to play on the national stage November, December. And the kid just quit on his team. He didn't quit on the school or his coaches. He quit on his teammates. Now, next year, they're going to have an agent that's going to go out and sell this kid to schools. And you know what is really sad to me is somebody will take him.
Yeah.
Somebody will take this kid because they're that desperate to win. And I hate that because, Dan, you play. You don't quit on your teammates, right? That's what this kid just did.
Ted Robinson joining us here, Fox Sports 910. Pac-12, a conference that you spent a lot of time in. Gonzaga accepted the invitation to join them on Tuesday. Now you got Boise State, Colorado State, San Diego State, Fresno State, Utah State, Washington State, and Oregon State. So you think there are more players out there? How many, and if so, how many you think are still out there to maybe jump and get the Pac-12 conference going again?
Yeah,
3.
I mean, look, this is the Gonzaga move was a home run. It's a home run in
Big
every
time.
way. It was something I mentioned 2 years ago when USC and UCLA made their move. I wish it had been able to happen even a year ago. It might have kept some of the presidents that didn't have a whole lot of courage from bailing. It's just a massive win credibility wise. It stops all the elitist commentary about, you have a conference filled with state schools. And I thought that was very reprehensible by some national media voices that should know better. But that the conference, to directly question, look, they absolutely have to add one more all sports school. They have to add somebody that plays football and everything else. The 9-school number is a magic number because it allows you to play 8 conference games. That keeps divvying the money up each school you add. So that's another consideration. I think now there's probably some realization they're going to have to go out and test the media market and find out, okay, what can we get? And, I think everyone has learned their lesson in amongst the pack to be realistic in that assessment. The unrealistic approach, 2 years ago blew up the league. So be realistic, have an idea what you can then take back to the next people you're going to ask and say, here's a range we think we can get. And the greatest part of all this to end is that the Pac-12 under Teresa Gould and led by Oregon State and Washington State has been proactive. After being reactive as a conference for way too long, they've been proactive. And as a result, they've won. They outflanked the Mountain West. I don't take any glee in saying that because I like the Mountain West a lot, but the Pac-12 outflanked them. And they're going to end up in a pretty good place. No one's kidding anybody. They're not going to be the SEC and the Big Ten. No one should suspect that. But they're going to rise from the ashes and be viable again.
Ted, we got about a minute left here. Sacramento State, they will get a new stadium for that school and move into the Pac-12. Your thoughts on a city investing now in the school that is in that city in Sacramento?
Well, the city's investing. They have a couple of individuals that were investing, one of whom I know personally is the owner of the Sacramento Kings, Vivek Ranadive. He's very committed to helping Sacramento State. Their goal is to make the jump up, and the Pac-12 would be a dream. I'm not sure if the Mountain West would be something they would look at, but obviously they have a transition period, and every school we know that goes through that, you're not going to be competitive for a while. So if a conference is offering Sac State membership, they have to understand that football-wise, they're just not going to be there for the X number of years it takes to transition into D1. Every school, especially in our part of the country, I think of UC Davis, for example, that was a Division II powerhouse. And it took them a while to transition up to where they could be competitive in the D1 level in the Big Sky. So, but the good thing for Sac State, they have money behind them.
Ted, real quick, as we go to break, I think it's November 22nd or 23rd, Oregon State, Washington State. Both these teams are playing pretty good. Who has the edge here on October 3rd for this head-to-head matchup?
Wow. It's two different games. Oregon State better defensively right now. Washington State is really struggling defensively. Washington State's pretty good offensively. Oregon State is a run team. They are an old school throwback to their identity. We're going to beat you up. We're going to run the ball down your throat, and we can stop you enough on defense to win. To project 6 weeks from now, who's healthy, etc.
Yeah.
The game's going to be in Corvallis. Of course, that's an ad for the Beavs. But to me, it's the contrast between the way they're playing that's fascinating.
Interesting. Ted, thanks for making time for us. We always appreciate you, man. Thank you. Have a good week.
Great being with you guys as always. Thanks.
Ted Robinson Saturday, he'll be calling the Oregon State, Colorado State, both teams in the Pac-12 now. That game's on 3:30 on the CW. Coming up, we need a contestant to challenge one of the beautiful Twin Peaks girls. Today will be Bella. We are at the Deer Valley location. It's our Peaks Picks brought to you by Blue Moon and Coors Light. We'll take caller number 5 at 602-260-9191, 260-9191. It's Bucks at Falcons, Jayhawks at Devils, Cards at 49ers. Those are the 3 games you're playing for a Twin Peaks gift card. That's next on Rock and Minuch with Jimmy B, live from Twin Peaks, Deer Valley.